Welcome to the season finale of the Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio podcast. This is Jennifer. I am the writer and voice of Harper for the Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. And I want to thank you so much for listening this season. We have a new season, season 5, coming out in the summer. I will post more details about the specific dates it will be available. Also, if you want to follow us on Substack, we are ZA Survivor Radio on Substack, so please check out at ZA Survivor Radio. As well as, I have exciting news. We have a book coming out June 9th called Dreaming True in the Apocalypse by Phoebe Walker. Phoebe Walker is the pen name that I write under with my co-writer named Mary, and she and I are very excited about Dreaming True in the Apocalypse. This is a romance novel set in the same setting as the Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio, and I am hoping to post the first chapter sometime soon to give you a taste of what the book will be about, and it should be available at all places that you buy a book. I will make sure that there are links on the Substack as well as other places. But I hope that you enjoy the book as much as you have enjoyed the podcast. And if romance novels are not your cup of tea, then don't worry. Season 5 will be coming out this summer. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate each and every single one of you. You make this podcast worthwhile for me, and I sincerely hope you've enjoyed season 4 and that you will enjoy season 5. Welcome to the end of the world, survivors. You are tuned into this station, one of the last voices on the airwaves. I'm Harper, broadcasting from a radio station that somehow still hums with life. I am no longer alone, and my friends and I are looking for the author of Robert's Rules of Chaos while we rebuild and forge new alliances. This is where we build our society. There is no going back. But as we forge forward, creating a new world order, I'll share stories of your fellow survivors and how the Robert's Rules of Chaos have helped them survive, or at least given them some goalposts to focus on. I'll be your guide through the madness, sharing the locations of safe havens, theories, and information about our new world, and the occasional existential crisis that comes with a zompocalypse. The world's gone dark, the dead outnumber the living, but we are surviving and rebuilding. The old world is gone, but we are adapting to surviving in this new world and the new rules that come with surviving the zombie menace. Stick around if you're still alive. Welcome, survivors. This is DJ Harper coming at you from the station. And you might not be hearing my voice for a little while. There are quite a few different projects going on that need my attention and my time, and that will pull me away from the station. But don't worry, there will be somebody manning the station and letting you know all of the news. So you'll still hear a voice, it just may not be mine. Malcolm has some faraway missions for me that he needs me to go on that Queenie and Priya think are critical enough that it warrants my absence. But for any raiders out there listening, there's at least one other truth demon here at the station who will be monitoring things if you decide to show up and try to lie to us again. Hopefully you won't do that, and you will try to integrate yourself into one of the communities that have formed, because really building community is what is going to save you. Stealing from people, killing people in order to steal from them, it's not gonna last. You're burning through a finite resource. Humans have become the finite resource. And so cooperation and rebuilding are going to make us much, much stronger than infighting. And, most of the people who have survived this far already know that. As you know, we've been looking for Robert of Robert's Rules of Chaos, and we have found him. We have not yet made contact, but we know where he is staying, and I'm going to be sent with a delegation to go and talk to him. In part because I have a copy of Robert's Rules that is most current from what we have pieced together with everybody we have talked to who has seen Robert's Rules. But the last two rules that I have, and I've talked to some others who have 10 rules. There are some people who have as many as 10, but mine go up to 8. And number 7 is always grow. And number 8 is these rules are a social contract. But unlike the other times I have looked at and read to you Robert's Rules, I don't have exposition on those two rules. I have the two rules themselves, but I don't have, Robert always provides deeper context to the rules. He always tells us what more he means by each rule. And I can hazard a guess with these two, but I would much rather get, the answer from the horse's mouth, as it were. So I am going to be traveling to the settlement that Robert, which is not actually his name. Apparently, he's riffing off of Robert's Rules of Order, which I think we all knew, with Robert's Rules of Chaos. But I'm not going to share the name either because I was asked not to. After having so many raiders come through to try and steal things and cause trouble and destroy what we've built, some of the information sharing is going to be a little bit more vague. I'm still going to share the locations of settlements that want to share their locations, that want to share their homes with newcomers. But there are quite a few settlements that are now closed to new members. Sometimes a settlement reaches capacity. We have built in fortified areas, or we have built and then fortified the areas. And inside those fortifications, there's a finite number of places for people to sleep, for crops to be grown, for people to take up the space. And so there are quite a few settlements now that are basically just trying to maintain the numbers they have and plan for expansion before they take on anybody new. But there are a lot of what we have started calling baby settlements, settlements that have the fortifications, but have quite a bit more space inside those fortifications than they do people. And those baby settlements are always eager to accept newcomers. They need people. And so there's quite a few of them that we're going to be talking about in the future. Well, someone's going to be talking about them in the future. I am going to be running errands for Malcolm and Priya and Queenie. One of the things that Malcolm's having me do, and I am allowed to share this information, is he wants me to get in touch with as many settlements of pikers that I can. Malcolm has tracked quite a few more people who have some special abilities that the pikers would find advantageous. And he wants me to take some of those people with me, find the pikers and see if they need people who have powers like Violet has, who have other attributes that would be useful to pikers. Because as we've discussed, people who made it their mission to kill as many zombies as possible start getting followed by the zombies. And, as we learned from Jim from Seattle, that entire debacle with the huge, huge attack on the plant a little while back, pikers attract the dead in huge, huge numbers. And so with those numbers coming after them, they do need extra firepower, so to speak. Pun not intended. But a few people have shown up where they can do what Violet did and just set all the zombies on fire. And there are a few others with additional abilities that can easily wipe out some of the zombies. So what we're trying to do is find as many pikers as we can to make sure that they have the protection that they need, the firepower that they need, and the abilities that they need. You know, every settlement needs somebody who can discern the truth. Every settlement needs somebody who can find things. Every settlement needs somebody who can grow things, you know, and the finding things, the growing things, those are still small enough numbers that, you know, the station's going to keep growing and growing and growing and sharing with various settlements. And so the people who are in a settlement that have somebody who can grow crops easily, quickly, they are going to be sharing with those settlements that don't have one of those people yet. So one of the things Malcolm's trying to do is, as he puts it, match talent to need. And the pikers need those that can take out a huge mass of zombies quickly and efficiently. But, you know, people with Violet's power, well, that's not going to work for some of the treetop ones. They'll choke on smoke, you know, smoke rises. You know, even at the plant, when all of the zombie heads exploded because Violet showed up, uh, we were definitely inundated with the horrible smell as well as the smoke. And so, you know, matching talent to need is also matching talent to their environment, to, you know, there are some places where fire is not going to be the best option because it would burn the settlement down or the forest down that the settlement is in. Because a lot of the pikers have not gone to ground exactly, but they have picked places that are remote. They have picked places that are heavily fortified. They have picked places where zombies can be easily disposed of, or more easily disposed of than right here, right now. You know, height seems to be a great advantage for a lot of the pikers in their communities. You know, they're up high because zombies aren't climbers. You know, they can run, they can infiltrate everything, but they don't tend to get high up. One of the piker communities has taken a page out of the high ropes course community that we ran across, where they have a huge network of zip lines where they zip line here, there, and the other place in order to get supplies. And when we deliver supplies to places with zip lines, they have entire pulley systems for those supplies because, you know, once they hit ground, they're going to get mobbed. The zombies are not playing around with the pikers. They're trying their level best to get them. So one of the goals, and you know, this always grow, is one of the rules that we would like a little bit more explanation from Robert. But I think I can take a guess. First of all, anytime you can be growing plants, growing food, growing crops, you need to be doing that. You know, food has become one of the number one priorities for all of us because, you know, the canned goods, the boxed goods, they're they're a finite resource. And, you know, we're a few years into this apocalypse, and finding supplies is becoming more and more difficult, more and more challenging. And so we're trying to focus on what we can provide ourselves. And so most settlements have crops. Most settlements have figured out what to grow when. And, you know, I hope you like potatoes because most settlements have potatoes, both sweet and regular, that they are growing constantly. And, one of the things when I am out and about that I do is I take food with me so I can share it. So I can talk about the station and everything that we have. So I can make friends because one of the best ways to make friends is to offer some food. Offering food is very much a huge portion of what I do when I am trying to make friends with new settlements. And in that way, we're getting trade up and running. And so a lot of the summertime months for us are establishing that trade. They are filled with sharing food. And, the station has quite a bit of food output. Um, so we're constantly looking for canning materials, for different types of things we can use to store food. And we're having to get real creative with it. We really are. Because canning supplies, as much as we have raided everywhere, we don't have as much as we need. Now, that said, I don't think I've ever eaten more salad in my entire life than I do right now. Because as soon as things are growing, if they can't be canned, they have to be eaten. So we are doing a lot of work in trying to preserve things, and we've figured out a million different ways to dry food. We are drying food all over the place. So one of the things that has become critical when it comes to our trade is getting the cans back. And I say cans, but mason jars. We're doing the old-fashioned jar canning. So, you know, we have the mason jars, the glass jars, those kinds of things. Um, but we have a few different settlements that have settled near orchards. And dried apples have become hugely popular among all of the settlements. Dried apples that come from the orchards because drying them is one of the easiest ways. Now, don't get me wrong. We have lots of applesauce, we have lots of apple butter, etc. But the dried apples are very, very popular. Because, we're not making potato chips, and there's one settlement that is drying the apples, and they are so crispy, it's like eating chips. So, but food and water are two of the primary focuses. You know, the primary focus is always survive the zombies, survive the dangers that are immediate. But, we constantly have to be looking of, don't die of thirst, don't die of hunger. And so we're doing a lot in regards to that. I tell you what, I have never spent so much time talking about digging wells and talking about cisterns in my life. And it's not riveting conversation, but it's necessary conversation. So one of the things that they send me out with when I'm going and meeting with the new people is how to make cisterns, what is required for a well. And so I'm you know, sharing copies of that information. And at a certain point, we're not going to be able to use the copy machine anymore, and we're going to have to handwrite this stuff. But that's okay. We will figure out how to do that, just like we'll figure out how to make paper. We'll figure out all of this stuff because we don't have a choice. And when you're left with no choice, you do what you have to do. And so I'm a lot more comfortable, talking with new people than I was when we started, I was a lot more guarded when we started because, 50% of the time you run into a new person and they're going to take from you. But the Robert's Rules of Chaos has done a really good job of fostering a sense of community, you know, not in the sense of we're all living near each other, but in the sense that if you are a human and you are alive, you are in this with all of the other humans who are still alive. We are all on the same team. We are all on the same side. And that is one of the really big thrusts from Robert's Rules is, and I keep saying Robert's Rules of Order instead of saying Robert's Rules of Chaos, but it's Robert's Rules of Chaos because we aren't living in an ordered time. We're living in a chaotic time. And this chaotic time that we're living through does require us to think about other people, even if we don't see those other people, and that's part of why I've spent the last several broadcasts sharing with you the stories of people surviving and how they have survived in part because somebody did think about who the next person was going to be. They did leave enough food for somebody else to have a last meal. They put in the effort to think about somebody surviving other than themselves. They kept the number one rule in mind. We are all in this together. And, I feel like all of the other rules hinge on that. We're all in this together. Everybody gets shelter because we all need a roof over our head and protection from the zombies. Everybody eats. I mean, everybody. Even non-humans eat. So, we can't survive without food. Everybody rests in peace. And that one is a lot more complicated than it sounds like. But do not attract the dead. One of the reasons we don't want to attract the dead is not just for our own survival, but the survival of people who may be nearby that we don't know about. If you attract the dead and you're in a place that's fortified, there may be a family nearby that's not in a place that's fortified and is just trying to get through the night. We have to think about other people. So, a lot of the other rules are mainly survival based, but the very first one is, I think, what the golden rule basically is in the zombie apocalypse. We are all in this together. And that's why I don't have any compunctions or reservations on dealing with raiders the way we deal with them. The past couple of attacks that we've had have been pretty vicious. They've been premeditated and full of malice is how Malcolm put it. And I think that's a really good way of phrasing it. They have been premeditated and they've been full of malice. They haven't just wanted to steal from us, they've wanted to destroy us. And it takes a special kind of insanity to want to destroy what others are rebuilding, to have so much hate in your heart that not only are you stealing other people's means of survival, but also you're trying to destroy what's been built. And as you all know, I will always have an axe to grind against Violet because we had spent so much time building up and she burned it down. Now, she did come back and save people, but I remember the fires burning much more clearly than I remember the saving, So, and maybe that's a shortcoming of mine. I am not necessarily the most forgiving of people, but when everything is life or death critical, and, in our zombie infested world, everything is life or death critical right now. Um, Causing harm, mayhem, and mischief just seems like a really horrible choice to make, as well as one that's just mean-spirited. And I'm done with mean-spiritedness. I really am. And so, I know some of you were very worried about the children that were brought in. And I've got to tell you, the children, yes, they've been separated from each other. Yes, they have been sent to different settlements, but they've all been sent to settlements that they did not know about beforehand. There are quite a few settlements that are secret, that don't want people to know that they're there. Um, and, they were sent to those secret places, the ones that accepted, because there were quite a few places that did not want to take children in who had been trained by raiders to do these things. But the ones that did accept were chosen because we want to integrate these children into society. We want to show them that there is a different way to do all of the things that they were shown to do, that there is a way to survive that does not mean you destroy others. And it sounds so basic and simple to me when I say it out loud, but you had to have seen these children. They were very armed. They were very well aware of what the plan was and what they were doing. And, some of them were maybe too young to have all of the ins and outs, but they knew that we were the enemy. And so we took them to people that they didn't know as the enemy. That way they don't have to try to integrate into a home where the people in this home caused them direct harm. Because I don't care who you are. If you if you are a kid and the person who's been taking care of you, the person you've been calling mom and dad for the past few months to few years is killed, you're going to be upset at the people doing it, even if those people were just defending themselves. Logic in a lot of situations doesn't matter as much as the emotion behind it. So the children are safe. So far, what we've heard, they are integrating rather well. The fact that they don't have to fight for food is a big thing. There is quite a bit of food hoarding that goes on with these kids still, which tells me that, maybe the people taking care of them weren't doing a good job and that they were used more as props than they were loved, basically. So where they are now, they're getting love, they're getting food, they're getting water, they're getting shelter, and it doesn't really cost them anything. They have to participate in all of the things the kids do. We're trying to make sure all of the children in the settlements know how to read. We're trying to make sure that all the children in the settlements know Robert's rules. We're trying to make sure that they are given all of the tools to survive. Luckily, most of the dealing with zombie information the kids have down already. So they are doing well. They are integrating pretty well. And I'm happy to report that most of them seem to be adjusting. Now I think that we will have some successes and some failures here. Not everybody will adjust perfectly. Not everybody will be able to be integrated. But so far, having someplace safe and clean to sleep, having food and water and shelter, all of that is going a long way to making these children friendly and part of a community. You know, Food goes a long way to building bridges. When you're hungry, everything else becomes secondary. And so we're hoping that that trend continues, but I will keep you posted. I know a lot of people were concerned about the children, but trust me, they have not been harmed. Now, they may disagree with that, but they have not been harmed. They have been fed. They have been cared for. They've been given clothing, shelter, and people to care about them. On that note, I want to thank you for tuning in, and I want to let you know that if you are alone out there, there are people gathering. There are places for you. And so your loneliness, your isolation will not be forever. If you have a chance to reach out in any way, please do so. And until we can get you in a community, above all else, survive, survive, survive.